Good evening, everyone. Today we will see one of the important interview question of React, and that is React reconciliation. So by definition, React reconciliation is a process through which React updates the browser DOM. For example, if we change state of a component, then that particular component will re-render. So how that re-rendering happens? Like what is the process? Like there's a process involved in the re-rendering. Right. So this entire process is known as the React reconciliation. So here I'll be explaining you about that process, how re-rendering happens, right? Or how rendering happens. For the first time, if our component will mount to the web page, right? So that thing is rendering. First time we say rendering, right? So how rendering happens. So this thing is also like internally what we use, like what happens while rendering. So we will see here. So let's say we are hitting a URL in the browser, right? So we are requesting from the server. By hitting the URL, we are requesting from the server for our web page. So we will get our web page on the browser. So what browser will do is it will convert this web page into DOM, right? And this DOM we have by using the browser, right? What React does is at the same time, it will convert that DOM into a lightweight copy, which is also known as virtual DOM. React makes this virtual DOM uh, to do so that if it will perform the calculation, we have a kind of little time complexity. If we will perform the operation using the actual DOM, it will have a higher time complexity. So yeah, so this is first time happens. We have virtual DOM ready in the memory. React does this, and we have a DOM in the browser. Let's say in this particular component, I have a to-dos, and here in this component, I have a add to-do function. So by calling this add to-do function, I add the to-do in this particular component, right? So what I mean by to-do is like one sec. So here I have one. One is nothing but the ID. Here I have written 123. 123 is nothing but the ID. Like study. I am making a to do. Second is like go to gym. Right. Third is anything. Right. Okay. So this three to do I have in this component. Let's say I called add to do function and I added some food to do. Let's say 10. I added this food to do. Right. Directly added to the DOM. This is not happen in React. What React does is it will create a new virtual DOM with the updated values, right? Updated components. So here in old virtual DOM, I have only three to dos. In the updated virtual DOM, I have all the things, right? So after that, what React does is it uses diffing algorithm to compare what component needs to re-render. So it will compare both the virtual DOMs and it will find out that only this particular component needs to re-render to go into next state. Right. Then after that, what React does is it will only render this particular node. Okay, so this particular node will be re-rendered. And now our final DOM will be look like this, right? And the virtual DOM is here. Okay, so using the diffing algorithm, we find out like which component needs to re-render. And for the diffing algorithm, we use breadth first search. So the reason why you use breadth first search is that let's take an example. Here I have this particular tree. I am making a tree. Why you can think it as a app.tsx component, and inside that I have made this number of components. You can think it in this way. So what happened is if, for example, this particular component will re-render, then by default React will re-render all of its children component. This component will also render, this component will also re-render. For example, I made changes in these two components, sorry, this two and this components. I made changes. Let's assume I made changes in these three components. So like how internally React uh, know like which particular components needs to re-render. So in this array, let's say here I am writing like which particular components needs to re-render. So here I am giving the number to the node so that you will be understanding this easily. And this is a queue. This is a nodes which will be re-rendering, and this is a queue for breadth first search. So how diffing algorithm we perform. So this is the updated DOM, right? Where we know like what changes I have done. This is updated virtual DOM. So initially I'll push one into my queue, right? And I'll pop it out one. Since one I don't need to re-render because I didn't change anything, right? So I won't be pushing into re-render array, and I'll push its children, which is nothing but 2 and 3 into my array. I'll pop it out 2, and I'll see like 2 second node has changed, right? So I have to re-render this node. So I'll push it into re-render array. Okay, and since I know like if this particular node is re-rendered, I don't need to go for its child components. Since by default in React, if parent component is re-rendering, then all of its children will be re-rendering, right? So I won't be pushing anything into the queue. Okay. Now I'll pop it out 3, and since 3 don't have any changes, I don't need to re-render 3. So I won't be pushing into re-render array. Okay, but I'll push its children because there may be a case where children will re-render. Then I'll take 6, I'll pop it out. Since 6 has changes, so I have to re-render it. So I'll push it into re-render array. Okay, and yeah, since 6 don't have any children, I won't be pushing anything into the queue. Again, next I'll pop it out 7. Since 7 don't have any changes, I won't be re-rendering anything. Right now, since 7 don't have child, I won't be pushing anything into my queue. Okay, so this is the array. So using this array, we can say that we have to re-render node 2 and node 6, right? So if I render node 2, then it will re-render entire thing. So in this way, this entire component will be re-rendered. Okay, and this 6 will be re-rendered, right? Okay, so this is the reason why we use BFS, because it's a kind of level wise. Since if we are going into the parent and parent has changes, I won't be going into the child for that parent child because I don't want to change. I don't want to re-render childs anymore. Yeah, I hope you have understand this